These are the following things that I'm appealing to the Prime Minister and our government to do in the next period of time. Number one, the Prime Minister needs to call a national summit and invite all leaders of major companies in Canada, including oil and gas executives, manufacturing, mining, and others, as these companies are responsible for much of the problem we experience today. Without the ability to reduce emissions, we need to have these people to help us do that. If they're not, then other actions that we may take really may not be that effective. However, according to reports in Canada, oil and gas companies have plans to increase oil and gas extractions and plan to invest billions of dollars over the next 20 or so years. And that includes in the Alberta tar sands as well. That doesn't make any sense. The BC government intends to drill thousands of gas wells and also build gas transfer stations to export that gas. Now is not the time for that. These actions go contrary to all scientific research that calls for a reduction of oil and gas use. Not only is the issue with keeping the oil and gas in the ground, but it's also that many of these processes require billions of liters of our water that is being used in the process. And as you know, water is a very precious commodity. So, if these groups that I mentioned are not part of the solution and are not willing to participate with the government of Canada in reducing emissions, we have a lot to worry about. Secondly, the National Energy Board that approves new pipelines will have to be revamped completely. In view of recent events that happened, we now know that perhaps some of this is already starting. But this Energy Board will need to have new guidelines that take into account environmental issues as well as the rights of our Aboriginal people before they make a decision. The third item deals with the trade agreements that Canada has signed up over the last number of years and is now in a process of doing a few more. These trade deals, if you read them carefully, will limit the ability of Canada to institute policies that will help reduce emissions. Under NAFTA, Canada has paid out $160 million in fines because they went contrary to that agreement. Now, what kind of agreements are we talking about? Well, how about the CETA, which is the European trade deal? Canadians don't want it, Europeans don't want it, but yet we're still negotiating it. The other one is the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. This is in the process of being negotiated. This agreement cannot be approved by Canada. And FIPA, is a trade deal with China. It gives China almost uncontrolled power over what we do here in Canada. They can sue not only the governments, municipal, federal, and provincial, they can sue individual companies because they are not allowed to make the profits they want to make. These trade deals are a big detriment to reducing emissions in Canada. And finally, there need to be new policies in place for oil, gas, mining, and manufacturing companies that will demand that there be environmental damage that is done will be cleaned up by these companies. Why are we, the taxpayers, responsible for cleaning up all the pollution and all the rivers and lakes that are being polluted with taxpayers' money? And this has got to stop. Randall's Reef right here in Hamilton, the cleanup is being paid for by all of us, the taxpayers' money, not by the corporations that polluted that for the last 30, 40 years. These things must be taken into account when any and every government wants any permits to do anything. If you damage the environment, you clean it up. And this is the way it's got to be. And part of that, I'm appealing for legislation that will eliminate the use of plastic containers, mainly the water bottles.